afternoon. It's the Pit Stop, your weekly racing show where we focus on IndyCar and also NASCAR racing out there. I'm Stephen McCollum, and obviously on this show we look back at racing last weekend. We look to the news around the sport, and then we look ahead to this weekend in racing. Last weekend, NASCAR was at New Hampshire. The IndyCar guys were at Washington, D.C. for that phenomenal, at least scenic race there in the nation's capital. This weekend, well, we got the chase being kind of wrapped up this weekend in the O'Reilly and Cup Series. Final season race here, or finale race here in the regular season for the NASCAR circuit. Then you got IndyCar, a doubleheader weekend over there in Milwaukee. Coming up this weekend is they only have 3 races left in their season coming up as well. So lots of actions around the racing sport, and we'll get into all of that here throughout the show. Don't forget you can watch the show on demand on YouTube. TME Media AZ is where you can find it. Of course, you can search for the Pit Stop with Steven, and it does pop right up for you on YouTube as well if you don't remember the parent company name. Or you can also find us over on Rumble for those of you that don't like YouTube. Rumble is where you can find all of our programming, including The Real Matrix, by the way. It's exclusive to Rumble. Rumble.com/user/TME Media. Search TME Media. It pops right up for you as well. But it more targeted there by doing the longer name out there. Of course, all of our programming, including this show, on your favorite podcast system. Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser. Wherever you listen to your audio podcasts, our shows are there. Just search the Pit Stop with Steven for this show, or the Pit Stop Talk is the actual name behind it there. And also on Pit Stop Talk on X as well to follow us there. Don't forget to join us on X. Join the conversation with us every week as we look at racing as it happens there on X as well. Don't forget also TME Media AZ on X. Kind of gives you what promotions that we do, what we're up to, what other things we do. And we also have some exciting things coming up here that you'll want to be following TME Media AZ on in order to maybe win some prizes coming up. We'll talk more about that here in the coming weeks as well. But last week, as I told you, IndyCar was at Washington, D.C. NASCAR there at New Hampshire last week. And let's look back at that racing before we look ahead. Now, this IndyCar race at D.C. was an absolute spectacle. It began pre-race with multiple flyovers. The Beast, which is the president's motorcade with that limo, they call it the Beast, going down the racetrack there for the president. President Trump and Melania, regardless of how you feel about them, a sitting president did the green flag here of this race with the Capitol in the background on that front stretch. Fantastic setup here for this race, and like nothing you've seen before there. And I will give, before we get into this, I will give Fox 1,000 kudos here as well, because I'm pretty critical of Fox coverage, especially on the NASCAR side. They did enough drone shots of the cars on the track where you got the Washington Monument, the Capitol, the museums you were going around, Natural History Museum, for instance. There's drone shots above where they did a great job of getting the shots of those buildings while also getting racing and then zooming down into the racing. I enjoyed the coverage of this race just as much as anything else out there. Just to give you an example of one of the flyovers, we saw Air Force One flyover with a bunch of Air Force fighter jets next to it as well. Well, here's one that was spectacular here, I thought. Indy 1, please. I mean, that's just goosebumps there. Then I said Air Force One flew over with jets next to it. It was a fantastic pre-race event there in the nation's capital. And then the race began. And the fireworks happened on the street course. It was, like I said, going around the monuments there as well. The Washington Monument, the Capitol building. It was just, I can't give enough kudos to Fox for that coverage as well. Then the end of the spectacular visual of the race. Well, Cook Kirkwood Kyle Kirkwood, excuse me, he was able to capitalize on the Alex Palou bad day, and he's at least made the championship points a little closer, a little bit interesting, with just these 3 races remaining. Now, Kyle Kirkwood did drive to a 3.09 second victory over Christian Lundgaard in this race. Now, interesting enough, Christian Lundgaard, in terms of teams, well, he was the leader there of 3 Andretti Global drivers that ended up finishing in the top 4 of this race. Now, that seconds there, the 3.09 second lead here for victory, sounds like a distance, but it sounds close. It's closer than what it should have been. A late yellow flag actually made the winning distance closer. At some points in this race, Kyle Kirkwood actually had a 16-second lead throughout this race. Domination by Kyle Kirkwood there in D.C. He achieved his second victory of the season. He led 128 of the 147 laps. He started second here as well, so he didn't really travel very far from second to first most of this race. Now, he's been good on these types of inaugural street races this year. Of course, winning D.C. He also won the inaugural street race back in March at Arlington, where they went around Texas Stadium, where the Globe Life, where the Rangers play, and the Arlington, Texas kind of scenic areas. He won that one as well. 2 temporary street courses. It gets even deeper for Kyle Kirkwood. 6 of his 7 career victories, temporary circuits is where he has won. He is the master of these types of races out there. Now, ended up being a dominating win for Kirkwood. Now, he needed that dominant win as well to gain points on the series point leader, Alex Palou, who did not have a good day. It was a tough day for Alex out there, trying to wrap up his championship here. And, he's got multiple of them already. And weird things were happening to Alex Palou in this race, which kind of made me feel like the gods were against him, if you want to say it that way. Alex hit a rival's tire during a pit stop. He incurred that drive-through penalty. He had a slow pit stop due to a loose wheel. And then he crashed into turn 4, and that was around lap 120, 123. That was due to a broken toe link because he had contacted the wall earlier in the race. So Alex Palou, tough day for him. Ended up finishing 20th here. Let's throw up that finishing order for the IndyCar, if we would. Of course, last weekend at Washington, D.C. Okay. It doesn't have it there. So I'll just tell you here how it went. Kyle Kirkwood was in first place. Christian Lundgaard in second. I told you that as well. Will Power ended up another podium finish for him. He's kind of got on a hot streak here as the IndyCar season is getting toward the finish here for Will Power in this race. Marcus Ericsson, who won last weekend, ends up in that 4th spot. Kiffin Simpson there in 5th. Nolan Siegel in 6th. Scott Dixon coming in 7th. Josef Newgarden there in 8th spot in this race. Collette there in the 9th spot. Romain Grosjean in 10th. That's your top 10 there as well. If you notice, we didn't say some names there. Graham Rahal in 13th, as he was battling there in the front for a lot of this race as well. But Pato O'Ward finished 16th in this race as well. Of course, he was really far out there in the top 5 in championship points, trying to get up there and make this a little bit closer. Unable to do so with that 16th finish. Marcus Armstrong in 17th. Felix Rosenquist there in 19th. And then Alex Palou there in 20th finish for him in this race. Now, the interesting thing, Santino Ferrucci, he's had some good finishes here, and you've seen some progress from him and that AJ Foyt Enterprises team. Friend of the program, of course. We interviewed him earlier this year. Ended up at 21st place for him. Scott McLaughlin wrecked as he was trying to make a pass, and I think it was turn 1, if I remember correctly, in this race. Wrecked himself out of the race as well. Santino Ferrucci, by the way, also retired in this race in lap 132 for him. But if you missed another name you haven't heard me mention that's kind of been trying to stay in the championship side of things, David Malakis. Well, his last 3 races have not been good for him. Finished 24th in this one. Contact took him out of this race in that early lap racing. Lap 35 is where he ended up not finishing that race. Now let's throw up the championship points here for the race here. And actually, We don't have that here either. We're just having some computer problems here today, folks. No big deal. Alex Palou, as you know, is winning the championship point side of things. 553 points on the positive in the leader of the championship standings. Kyle Cookwood has closed the gap to 91 points here, 462 points. Christian Lundgaard, David Malakis in the fourth spot, Pato O'Ward in that fifth spot as well. Not a lot of changes here. Going into this weekend's doubleheader in Milwaukee that we'll talk about later in the program, only the top five, the guys we just named, Alex Palou, Kyle Cookwood, Christian Lundgaard, David Malakis, and Pato O'Ward, only those drivers are mathematically alive to win the championship. And really only one besides Alex Palou has a chance to catch Alex Palou, and that's just Kyle Cookwood. And even that's a monumental issue. The reason why it's most likely not going to happen with 3 races to go, it's because the biggest points differential to overcome to win a championship, well, right now, Alex Cookwood is 91 points behind Alex Palou. The highest differential at this point in the season that was overcome, well, it's 51. Yeah. So you can see if Kyle Cookwood is going to get this done, it's not only going to take him having an unbelievable finish to the season, it's going to mean Alex Palou is going to have to struggle here as well to make up those 91 points out there moving forward. It's still in Alex Palou's hands to win the championship, but it's definitely kind of a question on where we're standing going forward. Next up for IndyCar, well, this weekend, Milwaukee doubleheader. I like this Milwaukee course. It's just old school. We'll talk about it coming up. Just flat as can be, racing in the corners kind of things that happen here. It's been around for a long time. Doubleheader, race on Saturday, race on Sunday. We'll look ahead to Milwaukee later on in the show as well. We'll go over to the NASCAR side of things, and they were at New Hampshire. The final regular season truck race happened in New Hampshire last weekend. And boy, oh boy, I love these end of the season races. People trying to qualify for the chase, trying to get in, trying to better their position, trying to get momentum going into the chase. And the truck race definitely brought a lot of that excitement, especially for the guys fighting for a chase spot out there. At the end of this double overtime race, Lane Riggs. Stop me if you've heard this before. Yeah, he won again. He got his 6th win of the year there in New Hampshire. He won by 0.293 seconds over his teammate Chandler Smith here in this race. If we have it, let's go to truck 1. This is Riggs after the race.
Statement win. I mean, this is awesome. Thank you to all the fans. I got a lot of people in the stands today, so thank you guys so much. Love coming up here. I'm ready for some lobster. I don't know if we're going to have any victory lane because we're only truck guys. I think they need to have lobsters at the truck race too, not just the cup race. But no, thank you to everybody at Front Row Motorsports, Ford Racing. Got Bare Knuckle Boxing Brawl on the side again. Got them another win, a dominant victory. Well, I wouldn't say dominant. I thought I was off a little bit. I thought I was in trouble. Zilch got by me. Chandler got by me. I was just really, really tight. Couldn't get it where I needed it. But my crew chief, Dylan Capello, engineer Jonathan Coates, they made some excellent adjustments there at the end. Thank you to my teammate Chandler for racing me clean there at the end. I mean, 1-2, Front Row Motorsports. It's in the name. So super excited. Like I said, I love this place. I love this type of racetrack. Let's bring on the chase. We only got 7 left. Just no mercy.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a successful season. He's definitely the favorite going into the chase for the Truck Series. I don't think there's any doubt about that, especially with the types of tracks coming here. For a 7-race for the championship coming up for the Truck Series. Now, if we have it, let's throw up the finishing order here in this race. Lane Riggs is obviously finished first. Chandler Smith second here in this race. Caden Honeycutt ended up with a 3rd-place finish as he's just kind of sticking up there. Caden Honeycutt's trying to vie for a championship and be in the conversation here with the chase starting. Lane Riggs led 106 laps in this race. Caden Honeycutt led 0 laps, but still got that 3rd-place finish. Now, interesting enough, Stuart Friesen, 4th-place finish here for him. Yeah, and I thought he was going to race well in New Hampshire. I thought he was going to get into the championship. Well, missed out on that. We'll talk about that in just a second. Connor Zilic came down from the Cup Series to finish 5th. Tristan McKee in 6th place. Young driver there getting the shot and finishing in 6th there. Christopher Bell coming down from the Cup Series as well. getting that 7th place finish. Daniel Hemrick in 8th. Justin Haley in 9th. Parker Eastman here in the 10th spot there for your top 10. Then you got Ty Majeski in the 11th spot. Other championship chase winners are people into the chase. Grant Effinger there in the 13th spot. Jake Garcia, not good enough for him to qualify for the chase. Jace Garcia coming in at 14th here in this race. By the way, led 14 laps in the race and was up front. Had a shot to get to kind of force those points and to try to sneak into that top 10 as well for him. Tyler Ankrum, who was outside the top 10 going into this race, well, he finished 16th there, and he had a tough day out there. Tough day. Overcame a lot of demons for that 6th place finish. And I'll just give you the little heads up here. He ended up getting past Stuart Friesen and getting into that top 10 of the chase. We'll talk about that in just a moment here. Ben Rhodes ended up 18th as he got into the chase as well in this side. Brendan Queen needed some miracles, finished 20th to get into the chase as well for him, and did not able to do it. Giovanni Ruggiero, Gio there, well, tough day for him there at New Hampshire. He ended up finishing 26th for him in this race as well. So Christian Eckes finished 28th in this race. So not a lot of movement here in terms of the championship points, but definitely some big moving. And the focus of New Hampshire, with Lane Riggs winning that double overtime, was the battle for getting into that 10-truck chase field that everybody was going for here. Last chance to get in. Let's throw up the Truck 3 championship points if we can here. And it's pretty simple to look at it and think about as we look at it here as the Truck Series regular season did come to this conclusion. Lane Riggs obviously in the first spot, Caden Honeycutt there in the second, Chandler Smith there in the third, and that gets reset here for the championship side of things. In the once the chase begins here. But in terms of this, you can see right at the bottom is the big difference that we're looking at after this race here. And it's interesting, Stuart Friesen just barely missed out. Tyler Ankrum gets in that 10th spot. Look, Ankrum survived a lot of things happening. Mechanical issues about halfway through this race. He dropped nearly a lap down at that time. Was able to come back for that 16th place finish in this race. That finish was good enough to give Tyler Ankrum a 7-point edge over Stuart Friesen, 11-point edge over Jake Garcia, who struggled a little bit more in this race as well. Those were the guys battling for that 10th spot out there. I put it into the show last week. I didn't think Stuart Friesen would be knocked out. It just ended up happening. And if you look back at the season on Stuart Friesen, he had a 4th place run at New Hampshire and still not enough to get in. Well, it was his 4th top 5 finish in the last 5 races. He's been hot lately. That's why I thought he would get through New Hampshire and be able to qualify for the race to get into the chase. Well, he was proud, though, Stuart Friesen was, of his team, even though he did miss the playoffs there. The reason why, if you look at it mathematically, well, he finished 36th last week at Richmond. Yeah, that was an early race crash that knocked him out of that. That basically was the mathematical difference on why he did not qualify for the chase here. And Tyler Ankrum was able to get in with that 16-point finish there for him. So the points do reset now for the drivers that did make the chase. If you don't know, I've get this question a lot for you non-NASCAR fans out there. Everybody still races for the rest of the season. It's just they're competing to win the race and things on their own accord. Then you got the playoff chase. You're trying to win a championship out there. So what they do is the points reset here for the 10 drivers that made the chase. Throw that up. Truck 4 will just show you kind of what happens. Now, it's based off of did you win the regular season championship? Lane Riggs did. That's why he's at 2,100. As the leader here, Caden Honeycutt, you got points for where you finished the regular season. You got points for other things. So that's why you see the point differentials out there. Leading all the way down to that 10th spot as 10 drivers make the chase field. In the Truck Series, Tyler Ankrum finally there in the 10th spot. No eliminations this year, if you remember. Last year, you had to win a race or be in the top 3. Drivers got eliminated every 3rd race. Not this year. You have a potential. So Lane Riggs, right, with a 70-point advantage here over that 10th spot. Well, doesn't matter this year. It's you just have to compete for that number one spot after the season ends here, and this seven race chase for the Truck Series gets there at the end. Now the fun part for the NASCAR Truck Series, yes, a 4-week break. Yeah, 4 weeks before they start their 7-race chase run to the title. September 17th is when they next get on the racetrack. That'll be at Bristol Motor Speedway coming up for the Truck Series. So obviously some time off here for the Truck Series before we look at them on the racetrack and when their chase begins. And we'll be multiple races into the chase with the O'Reilly and the Cup Series at that time. Now, O'Reilly Series last weekend was off again. They get back on the track this weekend coming up for their final race of the regular season. But a couple of weeks off for the O'Reilly Series gives us some intrigue going into this weekend. So, but first, we got to keep looking back there at the Cup Series there in New Hampshire. Weird decisions here around this Cup Series, right? They moved up the race. I think on Friday they announced that the race was being moved up an hour from 3 p.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern to avoid inclement weather moving into the area. So they moved it up. Then there was a weather delay. Wet tires had to be put on the cars because of the track was getting rain and the track was all wet there. They tried drying it off and things, which led to 9 cautions in this race as well. Yeah, in the Cup Series. It was kind of an interesting start to the race weekend with guys just spinning on their own. Carson Hocever, one of them, just spinning out there even with the rain tires, spinning on their own. Well, at the end of the day, with all of that happening, Ryan Blaney gets the win at New Hampshire and definitely sets up his momentum. You know, like his teammate Joey Logano did the week before, momentum is there for these Team Penske drivers, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, moving forward into the chase. Now, Blaney had a slow pit stop mid-race, but he was able to take his frustration. If you listen to his radio, it was frustration galore for Ryan Blaney. He took it to a .587 second victory over, shockingly here, Bubba Wallace ended up finishing second in this race. Shockingly, because Bubba Wallace has not been in that position a lot this year, and was able to get up there for a second place finish. Now, Blaney kind of dominated this lap a little bit, this race a little bit. He led a race best, 115 of the 301 laps here at New Hampshire. Let's see how the race ended. Here's the white flag lap leading to victory. Cup 1, please.
There is 1 lap to go, presented by Credit One Bank. Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Team Penske, 23:11. And in almost a carbon copy of a year ago, where Ryan Blaney led 116 laps. When he sees the checkered flag, he will have led 115 laps this year. It'll be his 3rd win on the season, and back-to-back here in New Hampshire, Ryan Blaney victorious.
And he gets to hold up a giant lobster after the race. You saw that reference in the Truck Series as well. They're not small lobsters, folks, out there as well. You win your 3rd race of the year. You got momentum going into the final race of the regular season coming up this weekend at Daytona. Let's check in with Ryan Blaney after the race, Cup 2.
Yeah, that made it difficult, but no, it was a good call after our issue on pit road. We did 2 at the end to try to hopefully get the lead, and we did. And it was a long run to the end there, longest run we had, and just tried to manage my stuff. And knew those 4-tire guys would probably pressure me eventually. And Bubba kind of came on pretty hard there, and just tried to manage the lap traffic while also trying to manage tire and just not make a mistake. But what a cool race! What a fun day starting in the rain, and ended up being a beautiful day. Everybody who came out, I really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with us, and hope you enjoyed a good race.
1 race to go until the chase starts. You're solidly 2nd in the standings. What does a win now do, just turning up the wick this close to the chase run?
Well, you always want to continue momentum, and Team Penske's been on a heck of a tear the last couple months. So props to everybody at Team Penske who's keeping their head down, working hard. Thank you, Menards, Dutch Boy, Ford Racing, Discount Tire, Body Armor, Dex Imaging, the Worth Group, Advanced Auto Parts, everything for what they do. It's cool to win here 2 in a row. I look forward to getting another lobster.
I was going to say, what are you going to do with a second lobster.
And get right up to next to the first one.
And Ryan Blaney won last year's New Hampshire race as well, so back-to-back winner for him here in New Hampshire. Throw up the finishing order for me, if you will. Ryan Blaney there in the first spot, as I told you, led 115 laps in this race. Bubba Wallace in second, 22 laps led for him. Josh Berry finished in third with 73 laps led. And at one point, I was like, Josh Berry is going to be there at the end and compete. Well, third place finish for him, with Christopher Bell finishing in that fourth spot. Kyle Larson in fifth, Ty Gibbs in sixth. Denny Hamlin comes in seventh here for him. By the way, Kyle Larson ended up leading 18 laps, in this race, which is just notable that he's kind of trying to get that groove back. He hasn't won since, Kansas of last year, if I'm thinking right. He hasn't won yet this year at all. And he's trying to get that groove back. Tyler Reddick finished in eighth. Ryan Preece in ninth. Noah Gregson ended up leading this race 17 laps and finishing in top 10 for Noah Gregson out there. Brad Keselowski trying to keep alive in the point standing. Well, finished 11th in this race. He needed a long way to go to get there. Austin Cindric, 12th here in this race. Joey Logano finished 14th in New Hampshire. For him, other guys to pay attention to, Chris Buescher finished 18th. He's going to be in the chase. Carson Hocevar had some bad days, had some bad moments out there in this race at that point, but ends up finishing 19th here. For him, Shane Van Gisbergen led 30 laps in this late race and everything, and he's the last driver. Going into this race, he was the last driver in that 16th spot. He's got a sizable lead, going into this race, but he needs good finishes with New Hampshire. Ends up finishing there 20th to keep into that top 16 for the Cup Series. We'll check in and see how good, or was it good enough for him to stay in that 16th spot. Coming up in just a little bit out there. Austin Hill, we got news coming up on him later in the show. Finished 24th in this race. Chase Elliott, 25th as well. Chase Briscoe, 26th. Ty Dillon, 27th. Then other guys that we just kind of pay attention to. We got word on Eric Jones coming your way in a little bit as well. But Connor Zilich ended up 35th in this race with that accident that he had with Riley Herbst at lap 222 as well. And then Ross Chastain, engine. That Trackhouse team with Shane Van Gisbergen, but that Trackhouse team has had a rough year here in this Cup Series. Time 9 caution, for 51 laps here in this race. And, it's a lot of guys needing to position themselves to be in striking distance for this weekend. Bubba Wallace finished second in this race with a fantastic run for him. Let's give some due to Bubba. Let's see what he had to say after the race, Cup 4.
I think I finally know, throw out the field that I'm chasing, which is hard to do as a race car driver. Searching for that right front, it's never really there. But we fought, man. I had a nice day, just by myself, regrouping, and got the head right, and just knew I had to fight all day, and that's what it takes. And where it starts is with these people on this 23 team. Man, they push me to be the absolute best, and I fail on them a lot, but they stick behind me, and it's super cool. So I appreciate that.
And that's Bubba Wallace. They're just giving him some due with that second place finish for him here. Going to make it into the chase. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Can he make some moves? Can he ride this momentum here from the second place finish into Daytona this weekend and forward? Now, he's not clinched a playoff spot yet. We'll talk about that. Here's throw up Cup 5 for me. This is the championship points as they stand right now. On your screen, 1 through 13, they've clinched their chase spot. So 1, Denny Hamlin, and he's going to win the regular season championship. Denny Hamlin most likely is here. Ryan Blaney, 70-something points behind Denny Hamlin. So it's possible it gets crossed over, but Denny Hamlin will be a regular season winner, I predict, as of right now. So it goes Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, Carson Hocevar, William Byron, and Daniel Suarez. Those 13 drivers have clinched their spot in the chase. The guys that are in the top 16 but not clinched yet, Well, that would be Bubba Wallace, as we just talked about. And you see on your screen there, he's plus 75 points from that cut line. He just needs to get 2 points at Daytona. You can get that in stage 1, stage 2, and he will clinch a spot in the chase. Bubba Wallace will be in the chase coming up here after this weekend coming up. Now, a little bit more of question marks here, if you want to look at it that way. Austin Cindric's next up in that 15 spot inside that 16 driver field. Well, he's 44 points up. He needs 33 points here at Daytona in order to clinch his spot going forward. You need the 33 points. Doesn't matter what anybody else do. 33 points will get you into the chase. Otherwise, you're relying on how guys outside the bubble finish. If you get out of this race early for whatever reason, you got to hope that they don't get enough points to catch up and hit you there. And then SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen is in that 16th spot still, even though he had that, 14th, 15th place finish there in New Hampshire. He's 31 points above the cut line. If he gets 46 points at Daytona, which is going to be hard for him to get, folks, he'll clinch his spot into the playoffs. Otherwise, he's got to get enough points to keep Ryan Preece from making up that 31-point differential. Everybody else is out of this playoff fun. Brad Keselowski, sorry, enough guy, unless Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, and SVG all crash in lap 1, and he goes on to have a good finish and get some stage points in each stage. Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain, Eric Jones, all out of this hunt moving forward. Ryan Preece is probably out as well. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to predict you have your top 16 in terms of the playoff points right in front of you right now. I don't think you're going to see a truck series where, Tyler Ankrum had to overcome a 1 point there to get in front of Stuart Friesen and end up doing it at that point. I think it's a big, more monumental side of it. Now, Daytona, a lot of things happen there. Ryan Preece could end up finishing in the top 5 in this race. And if SVG or Ross and Cindric don't get to this finish line and don't finish high enough, it's possible that could be overcome this weekend. Which means next up is the final race of the regular season here coming our way at Daytona. It's going to be a fun little ending to the season. When we come back here at the pit stop, we'll get into the news around racing. A lot of the news is around NASCAR. Silly seasons out there. We know kind of what's happening in the O'Reilly series for a bunch of drivers. We'll fill you in on that. Schedule releases are out. We'll go over the truck, the O'Reilly, as well as the Cup Series schedule for next year and get you updated on that. And then we look ahead to this weekend in racing. IndyCar, doubleheader at Milwaukee, Saturday and Sunday racing there. And then, of course, Daytona for the O'Reilly and Cup Series Friday, Saturday night, folks. Let's get into it. The pit stop. welcome back here to the pit stop, or we just got done looking back at last weekend's racing in IndyCar and NASCAR at New Hampshire and IndyCar up at DC as well for the Freedom 250. That was a very long race for those drivers and spectacular from that perspective. And now we're going to get into the news side of things here, but don't forget here, right? We do weekly racing coverage here on the pit stop. We look back at last weekend. We look at the news around the sport, which we'll get into in just a moment here. Then we look ahead to racing this weekend and set the stage, make our picks here for upcoming here with IndyCar doubleheader in Milwaukee. And then, of course, NASCAR coming up this weekend as well at Daytona. Final season races here, final regular season races for the O'Reilly and Cup Series. But first, don't forget, you can catch our programming on YouTube, TME Media AZ. That's our parent company there. Just where we put everything out here as well for you. On demand, all of our programming is there, including the pit stop. Usually it's out by 2 p.m., either on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the week. That's why you need to follow the Pit Stop Talk on X or TME Media AZ on X as well as the parent company. We put our announcements out there for when the shows will be up for you. Up by 2 p.m. on the days that we do record the Pit Stop here. Free podcast system for the Pit Stop as well. Just search either the Pit Stop with Steven or the Pit Stop Talk on your favorite podcasting system. It'll come up for you for those of you that like to listen to programming on the audio side instead of watching it. And then if you're not a YouTube fan, all of our programming is also over on Rumble, including exclusively to Rumble, The Real Matrix that comes out every Friday with the Angry Patriot. That is all on Rumble. Rumble.com/user/TME Media is where you can find that. But you'll also find the McCollum on Business, the main event, the pit stop here also on Rumble for you there. For those of you that just don't like the YouTube angle, we are live on YouTube for McCollum on Business at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, as long as the markets are open. And also the main event live on YouTube there as well. So like, subscribe to however you're listening to us, either be the free podcast systems, YouTube, or over on Rumble. Like and subscribe it. We have other options coming your way as well. So stay tuned for all of that information. That being said, let's get into the news around the sport here as well. In NASCAR Circle, right, we're getting into silly season. Drivers are finding out if they're coming back with their teams, if they're moving on, and they're making all those announcements as we get started. And we found out this week Sammy Smith will indeed depart Junior Motorsports at the conclusion of this 2026 O'Reilly season. Now, Smith has won a pair of races here in 89 starts with JRM. He did finish 8th in the championship standings last year. And, going into this weekend, which is the regular season finale at Daytona, well, Smith ranks 8th on the chase grid. He has 6 top 5 finishes, 10 top 10 finishes in the opening 23 races here of this year's campaign for him. So moving on from JRM, and we know the driver taking a spot. We'll get into that in just a minute. But yeah, but RCR, Richard Childress Racing, making a lot of announcements this week as well. One announcement, well, they announced that development driver Carson Brown, he's going to get a full-time ride in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series next year under the RCR banner, and it starts coming up in 2027 season. It's part of a multi-year plan to continue to develop his career. And by the way, 18 years old, moving into the O'Reilly Series coming up under the RCR banner. Also, Richard Childress Racing announced Chandler Smith will join the organization's O'Reilly Auto Parts Series program. It's going to do it full time beginning in 2027. He's going to drive the number 21 Chevrolet. A multi-year agreement for Chandler Smith as well for that with RCR. And then Peterson Racing said, do not forget about us here as well. Yeah, they announced that let's say a short track legend out there, if you're a racing aficionado and you follow a lot of different type of racing, well, you've heard the name Lee Pulliam. That's right. He's joining Peterson Racing for a full-time circuit next year for 2027. He's going to be in the O'Reilly Series as well for NASCAR for him. He's one of late model stock car racing's greatest ever. That's the name that you know if you follow that type of racing. Pulliam will pilot number 87 Chevrolet next year in the 2027 season. And, of course, starts with Daytona next year as well. And then like I said, I told you we knew the replacement for Smith leaving Junior Motorsports. That's right, Carson Kvapil. He's going to return to the organization, JR Motorsports, for a full-time ride here for the 2027 O'Reilly season. Now, he was racing part-time with them this year. He kind of moved around. We talked about it. He got his first win just a few weeks ago, and then he backed it up with another win right afterwards. And, he's been in and out of teams this year and everything. Well, going back to Junior Motorsports. Yeah, he's going to drive the number 8 Chevrolet, which he's the driver taking the place of Smith, who's leaving Junior Motorsports. Kvapil has primarily driven JRM's number 1 Chevrolet this season, and he sits second in the O'Reilly Series standings for him as well. So look, you can't tell me though that first career victory win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway a few weeks ago. You can't tell me that didn't help. Winning the next week at Iowa. Yeah, he's a good kid. Everybody likes him. Winning is needed. You saw Earnhardt Jr. say that after he won his first race. Can't tell me that didn't help him be able to get this ride with Junior Motorsports for next year. And then Joe Gibbs Racing got into the announcement side of it as well. Brandon Jones has signed a contract extension. He's going to continue to drive the number 20 Toyota in that O'Reilly Auto Parts Series as well. And a 1-year extension here, 2027 season is all it's for. Now, Jones, it's into his 12th full-time season competing in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. He first joined JGR back in 2018 and getting another year to run with them in that O'Reilly Series as well. Then in the Truck Series, right, we just got done getting used to calling him Craftsman again for the last few years. Yeah, NASCAR's reportedly finalizing a deal with FedEx Freight, who just spun off from the parent company FedEx here recently in the market. Yes, so they're going to be the entitlement sponsor of the Truck Series. It's a multi-year agreement. It's expected to be finalized here in the coming weeks. Nothing official yet, but that is the word out there. FedEx Freight, of course, is going to replace Craftsman, who did serve as the Truck Series entitlement sponsor since 2023. They'd previously been the title sponsor from 1995 to 2008 on the Truck Series. So now FedEx Freight taking over moving forward. And we don't know the terms on it at all. I've heard through back channels and things like that, the Truck Series entitlement sponsor, which means the sponsor of the whole thing, about $5 million a year is what it costs to get that sponsor. So check your pockets, everybody. Let's do it. Let's do the TME Media AZ title sponsor for the Truck Series when this FedEx Freight one ends here in a few years with this multi-year agreement coming up. And then the lawsuit that has been quiet for a while, but now we got some more judges' rulings here. It's not going to go to trial till February of 27, but of course we're talking about the Chris Gabehart Spire Motorsports against Joe Gibbs Racing here, where Joe Gibbs Racing is suing Chris Gabehart, the old person that ran JGR. Well, he moved over to Spire Motorsports, and lots of allegations have gone out there. We've talked about it here at the pit stop over the last several months. Well, Chris Gabehart and Spire Motorsports can proceed with their counterclaims against Joe Gibbs Racing. And this is an order given and handed down by the judge in this case. Susan Rodriguez is the judge's name. She put this out this week as well. She made a ruling from the bench after hearing arguments from both sides. She told the parties she, quote, wanted to keep the case on the track, unquote. Well, as I said, they want to make sure they get through all of these motions and everything for the scheduled trial date, which I told you is coming up February of next year. I believe it's February 1st, but it's at the beginning of February here in 2027. Now, Joe Gibbs Racing had filed motions to dismiss the claims of both Spire Motorsports and Chris Gabehart. Well, the judge granted a partial dismissal of the claims in which he alleged that Joe Gibbs Racing operated outside the allowed scope of forensic analysis because they accessed privileged information on Chris Gabehart's devices. But the additional claims Gabehart did file against his former employer, those will be allowed to move forward in this big battle out there. A couple of Kyle Busch situations for you guys out there and things coming up in the NASCAR circuit. Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Thinking NASCAR here. They announced this week that the annual fall race over at the Bull Ring, which is the small racetrack outside of Las Vegas Motor Speedway, they hold a race there every NASCAR weekend as well. Well, the fall version at the Bull Ring is going to officially be named the Kyle Busch Classic. If you don't know, Kyle Busch is from Las Vegas, along with his brother Kurt. They've raced at that Bull Ring a lot coming up before they became NASCAR superstars out there. So the fall race being renamed the Kyle Busch Classic moving forward. And then Bristol Motor Speedway coming up. Their race coming up in September. They're going to honor Kyle Busch as well. A special lap 18 tribute. Now, this is going to happen here at Bristol on the Bass Pro Shops night race on September 19th. So guests throughout the Coliseum, the last great Coliseum, I should say, there at Bristol, they're going to have a role in the tribute. Yeah, that's right. Fans are going to be involved. Fans going into the gates, they'll receive a commemorative yellow towel upon entering the Coliseum. And they're going to be invited to wave it during lap 18. The towel will be produced in support from M&M's, who was a big title sponsor there for Kyle Busch for a lot of years. Of course, Joe Gibbs Racing involved in that, along with Samantha Busch and the Busch family. But also, this commemorative towel will feature Kyle's signature. It'll have the Samantha and Kyle Busch Bundle of Joy Fund logo on it as well, and M&M branding for these commemorative towels. This towel complements the return of Kyle's iconic yellow M&M's car to Bristol for this race on September 19th. That's right. Joe Gibbs Racing will honor Kyle Busch with that special mosaic painted scheme on Ty Gibbs's number 54, and they're bringing back the M&M's branding for that race as well. So it'll be that yellow branding as well. So it's the mosaic is going to actually feature moments from Busch's career as little pictures on that. It's going to be a fantastic card to see. I can't wait to see it coming up on September 19th. Now we got to talk, the schedule is out for the 2027 season before we get into looking ahead to racing this weekend. That's right. The truck schedule is out there. And just a note on the scheduling is, Ethan, just let me know that the schedules are up for me since I don't have my monitors here. So there's a note here on these races. NASCAR is going back to the San Diego, and I'll break down the truck series here in just a minute. But overall, the Department of War and NASCAR got together, and they did a multi-year plan to continue hosting events beyond the Naval Base Coronado. They do return to the Naval Base Coronado coming up in 2027. But it looks like it's going to expand. For instance, in 2028, they announced, the Department of War and NASCAR announced they intend to take the military base street race to a different U.S. military installation in 28, which will expand the opportunity to celebrate and connect with service members, military families, and communities across the country. So that's what's happening. And, we found out. I didn't think they'd go back there, but they are. They're definitely going back here to the Naval Base Coronado this year. Now, the difference is late July as opposed to the July 4th timeframe like it was just after July, or a couple weeks before July 4th weekend this year out there. So the truck series starts off in Daytona, of course, February 19th. Then they go to Echo Park. Then they open up with the IndyCar there at St. Petersburg. That'll be the truck series and IndyCar doubleheader like they had this season here in 2026. That's Saturday, March 6th. Then they go to Darlington, which the other guys, the big boys, are not going to Darlington. The truck series will be racing there, though. Then you got Bristol after that, Texas, Kansas, North Wilkesboro, and then Charlotte here in the truck series. Nashville, Pocono, Michigan, Lime Rock Park gets another visit here, and July 10th here for the truck series. If you note there's some big gaps, right? Michigan, June 19th. They don't race again to Lime Rock Park there on July 10th for them. Then they go back to Atlanta with Echo Park. Then they get to go to Lucas Oil there in Indianapolis. Again, end of July, July 23rd for the truck series. Then Bristol, Bowman Gray is a points race here for the truck series next year. August 20th, to mark your calendars for that. That's right, Canadian Tire there on Sunday, September 5th in the truck series. Then they go to New Hampshire, Kansas. Now, keep in mind, these are the New Hampshire begins the chase, the playoff race here, the chase for the Truck Series next year. So the chase races are the New Hampshire, Kansas, Charlotte, Phoenix, Talladega, Martinsville, and then the championship race there in Homestead, Miami for the Truck Series. So Canadian Tire race in that, Bowman Gray a point race as well, and then Lime Rock Park as well for the Truck Series as well. Let's go to the O'Reilly Series schedule here if we could and see what they are up to. You got Daytona, Echo Park, Coda with the Cup Series here. Of course, Phoenix here as well. That's going to be an IndyCar weekend as well, just like it was this year here in Phoenix on March 13th for the O'Reilly Series. Then Las Vegas after Phoenix next year. And then Darlington for the O'Reilly Series as well. Bristol, Martinsville, Talladega, Texas, Dover, then North Wilkesboro weekend. That will be an all-star race for the Cup Series. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Then you got Charlotte, Nashville, Pocono, Chicagoland. That's right. Then you go to Iowa, Sonoma, Indianapolis, San Diego there, the July 31st weekend there, where they go back to the Naval Base Coronado on end of July this year in 2027. Bristol, then you got the WWTR, right, the Worldwide Technology Raceway there, outside of St. Louis. Daytona, Darlington, and then you get into the chase tracks here for the O'Reilly Series. Richmond, Watkins Glen, so a road course there right after Richmond. Then you got Kansas, Las Vegas, Charlotte, Phoenix, Talladega, Martinsville, and then, of course, championship there at Homestead Raceway again coming up for that. And make a note here, I didn't touch on it. The Truck Series not at the Naval Base Coronado coming up next year. They race at Lucas Oil on July 23rd, and they don't race again until Bristol August 12th. So the Naval Base will be the O'Reilly and the Cup Series coming up as well. Throw up the Cup Series schedule for me in 2027. Obviously follows a lot of what the O'Reilly Series does, but we told you the Clash returns to Daytona. We told you that was happening this year. Saturday, February 13th. Then you got the Daytona 500 on February 21st. Echo Park, Coda, Phoenix. IndyCar will be here as well in Phoenix for that. Las Vegas right after that. Early off week for the Cup Series here on March 28th. And then they go to Darlington, Bristol, Martinsville, Talladega, Texas, early May for Texas this year, Kansas, and then Dover coming up. Then the All-Star Race, North Wilkesboro weekend for the Cup Series. After that, you go Charlotte, Nashville, Pocono, Michigan, Chicagoland again this year, June 27th. Then you got Iowa, Sonoma up there in Northern California roadways after that track at Iowa. Then you go all the way to Atlanta, to Echo Park, back to Indianapolis, to down to San Diego for that Naval Base Coronado race there in San Diego. That's a lot of back and forth across the country coming up here for the Cup Series next year. Then another off week coming up on August 8th. So we got 2 off weeks coming their way. Then you got Bristol, WWTR, Worldwide Technology Raceway, before you hit Daytona. And then Darlington is going to be your final race before the chase begins here coming up. And then you've got the chase tracks. Richmond opens it up there. Watkins Glen, so road course there in the second one. New Hampshire's in the playoff next year with the chase. Then you got Kansas, Las Vegas, Charlotte, and then Phoenix coming your way. So 3 basically fast. I know Phoenix isn't a 1.5 mile track there, but 3 fast-moving tracks here with Kansas, Las Vegas, Charlotte, and Phoenix all in a row before you go to the Dega, right? Talladega after that. Martinsville, and then the championship race there at Homestead, Miami. Same format as this year. Nobody gets eliminated once the chase begins. You're just fighting for points, best finishes, points you accumulate in order to win a championship. So it doesn't really matter if what order the races are in the chase, other than what you're looking at going forward there. But the official racetrack is out there. Naval Base Coronado for the O'Reilly and Cup Series coming your way next year again. Truck Series is missing that race coming up, but But some excitement here with the way this format is. I'm looking forward to the 2027 season, but first, man, we got the finale here for the O'Reilly and Cup Series to look ahead to this weekend. And an IndyCar, well, doubleheader IndyCar at Milwaukee. And IndyCar does return to the Oval this weekend, coming up in Milwaukee. And like I said, Saturday and Sunday racing, folks, doubleheader. 3 races remaining in the IndyCar season. These 2, and then they go down to the season-ending race after that coming up here as well. So the Milwaukee Mile is what they call this track. It's about 1 mile, just over 1 mile, 1.015 miles exactly is the track length. So they're going to run 250 laps to make that 250 miles here, the race distance. Wisconsin drives more like a road course here, if you didn't know. 9-degree banking in the turns, which does produce some of the most exciting racing in the turns, folks. This track creates overtaking opportunities while you're in the turns. And then the straightaways, they still do it as well there, but the turns are where the excitement are going to come with these IndyCar races. The mile opened back in 1903 outside of Milwaukee. Little has changed to the configuration. It's still the same flat racetrack. You're going to see some excitement here twice this weekend, once on Saturday, once on Sunday coming up as well. So on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 8 a.m. out here on the West Coast for those of us out here, you're going to get the IndyCar qualifying there at Milwaukee. Then at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, which makes that 11:30 out here on the West Coast of things, Race 1 hits your screens there on Fox on Saturday. Hey, let's see how that goes. Does Alex Palou basically secure his championship, if I can speak? Or does he kind of leave an opening for Kyle Cookwood some more to make some more progress here? Because then you wake up Sunday and at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, which would be 10 a.m. out here in the West Coast. Race 2 will begin here on Sunday. Does Alex Palou get his championship wrapped up? Or do we have some intrigue going into the final race of the year next week here in the IndyCar circuit? So we've gone from 2 road courses, 2 new road courses, no less, right? Markham up there outside of Toronto, temporary track, new racetrack for these drivers, to Washington, D.C., new temporary track there as well. You go from that, and then you might find it comforting to return to an oval track this weekend. Well, not very comforting, folks. It's not your typical oval. The Milwaukee Mile is old school, not your typical oval on the IndyCar circuit. Now, drivers like Alex Palou struggled in D.C. Does his bad fortunes continue? That's the big question this weekend. Or does he extend his points out there and possibly clinch with these 2 races coming up here? That's the big question going into this weekend on this flat circuit here in Milwaukee. Palou has a lead of 91 points over second place Kyle Cookwood. And after DC, Cookwood got 30% closer to Palou in the championship points. I told you earlier, Alex Palou is still in the driver's seat for the championship going into this weekend's 2 races. The biggest point differential was 51 points, if I remember correctly. 91 points separates these 2 here. Alex Palou is in the driver's seat, should still win the championship. But last weekend, Cookwood gave us a kind of a glimpse of, could this happen? Depending on what happens coming up at the Oval in Milwaukee twice this weekend. Cookwood has a puncher's chance to overtake and make history in the IndyCar circuit. But he needs another great finish. That's the problem. He has to have a great finish, and Alex Palou has to struggle on these racetracks to where Cookwood can make up points. Cookwood can't finish 3rd and Palou 4th. It's not going to be able to make up enough points. You need a weekend like last weekend where Kyle Cookwood picks up a lot of points and Palou does not. That's what has to happen as well. Now, the problem is Kyle Cookwood only has 1 oval victory in his the IndyCar series. That was back in 2025 at the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Yeah, he's not good on ovals compared to some of these other drivers out there. And Alex Palou isn't the best on ovals, but he can win on an oval, absolutely, and has done so. Look back to Phoenix earlier this year in March. Alex Palou crashed out at that race, but then he won an oval later on in the season. It's going to be fascinating to see how it goes, but that's kind of where we got a puncher's chance and a hope of Kyle Cookwood being able to pull this out, or at least keep it interesting through this weekend for the final race of the year. It's just all signs and everything says it's not going to happen, but, stranger things have happened in sport out there as well. In terms of who is still alive in the points, in order to win the championship, well, I told you earlier the 5 drivers in the top of the point side. So Pato O'Ward, Christian Lundgaard, David Malakis, Kyle Cookwood, and obviously Alex Palou are all eligible and mathematically eligible to win the championship. But only one has a legitimate chance to kind of fight for it, and that would be Kyle Cookwood, if you want to give him a chance at all. So it's still Alex Palou's championship to lose going into this weekend's racing. There are 5 former Milwaukee winners in this race this weekend. Last year's Milwaukee winner, Christian Rasmussen, he chased down and actually passed Palou with 16 laps remaining last year. If that happens this year and in either of the races, well, it's going to give Palou enough points to make a big distance here. That's devastating news for Kyle Kirkwood if that was to happen again this year. Scott Dixon earned his only Milwaukee victory, but it was way back in 2009. Not only has it been a long time since Scott Dixon won at Milwaukee, now they took a bunch of years off there, so don't get me wrong on that. But problem is Scott Dixon's winless this year. Now, he's getting, with 3 races left, he's still seeking to extend his record of 21 straight seasons with at least 1 race victory in the season. Only 3 races remaining. Does that put extra pressure on Scott Dixon to get a win, knowing that streak could come to an end here? Will Power, who struggled this year at the beginning of the year, but podium finishes the last 3 or 4 weeks here for Will Power with his new team. He won in Milwaukee back in 2014. That was when he was running with Team Penske back then. This is his first season with Andretti Global. He's on riding a streak of 3 straight third-place finishes, and he's also in the top 10 in the standings, which a month and a half ago, you never would have thought you'd be saying that about Will Power. So he has won there, different team, and it's been a while, 2014. They're not voting well here for these guys to compete to win. Now, IndyCar returned to Milwaukee in 2024. They took a bunch of years off there. Pato O'Ward and Scott McLaughlin have also won on the doubleheader weekend. All right, Pato O'Ward, well, he needs a win to stay alive in the championship side as well, as he's in that 5th spot, mathematically available. Scott McLaughlin made a terrible decision to try to pass last weekend, got wrecked out of that DC race. Can he make that up on the oval at Milwaukee this weekend is the question. Now, we haven't even mentioned the IndyCar driver who has the most success on short oval courses. Of course, we're talking about Josef Newgarden. He won here in Phoenix earlier this year, right, on a mile course as well, everything. But Milwaukee is completely different than Phoenix is. Phoenix has banking. Milwaukee does not. It's a flat course, similar, as I said, to a road course. Now, here's the problem. Josef Newgarden, most successful short oval driver, well, he's never won at Milwaukee. He does count 14 short oval victories, including 2 this season as well. That being said, all of that's out there. Alex Palou's on that side. You have to pick 2 winners this weekend because there's a race Saturday and a race Sunday. I'm not going to say who's going to win which one, but I'm going to go Josef Newgarden's going to get at least 1 win this weekend on the short oval. He's never won at Milwaukee, but he's really good on these types of tracks. Now, how does the flatness of this track, the slat oval, how does that mess with him a little bit? Because he struggles on those road courses. Does that mess him up a little bit? But I'm going to go with him as that short oval best winner out there. And then I'm going to go with David Malakis. He has struggled the last 3 races. 14th and worse for the last 3 races out there. David Malakis will get his first win in the IndyCar Series this weekend. He's had a lot of podiums this year, struggled the last 3. I think he's going to pop his head up and get a win here at Milwaukee. In terms of the championship side, I do predict that Alex Palou will not wrap up his championship this weekend. I do think that the points are going to be close enough that we'll have to wait till Laguna Seca here coming up next weekend on next race there on September 9th, the season ender before Alex Palou does wrap it up. I do think It's going to still be technically available after these 2 races this weekend. 2 IndyCar races. It's going to be fun there in Milwaukee. I love these old school racetracks. They don't make them like this anymore. They don't race them very often anymore either. Now it's all about big buildings, a lot of banking, things to that effect. This is going to be fun in Milwaukee. 2 races coming up this weekend. Now let's move over to NASCAR looking up this weekend. Of course, Daytona Summer Race is an adventure. No doubt about it. It brings pack racing, meaning you're going to see guys lining up side by side and front and forth, drafting with each other here, and which will lead to those drafting battles. Multi-car incidents will occur because guys don't know how to manage the racing and the pack driving and the drafting. Somebody gets squirrely and then takes out half the field in that. And then some guys just drive around damaged after that. Yeah, it's the most unpredictable stop, if not one of the most unpredictable stops on the NASCAR schedule. And it's setting the stage for if you want to be in the chase here coming up. Here's the problem with this weekend. The weather. As of this show's recording here in the middle of the week, let's throw up NASCAR weather here for me if we could. Look at this. Rain all weekend long is scheduled to go, including on Monday if you want to look ahead to Monday as well. So what's the weather going to be like? Is the races going to get off? Friday night is when the O'Reilly Series gets going. Saturday, of course. Saturday night would be the Cup Series. When does the race happen? Is there big delays in this and things? Something to watch going into this weekend here at Daytona. Now, the Truck Series is off this weekend, as I told you earlier. It doesn't return for their first race of the chase until September 17th, and that'll be Bristol at that time coming up for them. That's a Thursday night race, by the way, for their first race in the chase coming up. Yeah, which means we got the O'Reilly and Cup Series this weekend. And the O'Reilly Series has been off for a couple weeks now, 2 weeks to be exact. Who comes back refreshed? Who comes back ready to clinch a spot in the chase? And who comes back to gain momentum going into the chase as well here in the O'Reilly Series? The final race before the chase begins. And lots of question marks here with the time off for these guys. And then you add Daytona as a question mark as well. So if you've clinched your spot, how much momentum are you going for this weekend? Do you play it safe just to kind of be happy with the way you finished the regular season if you've clinched? Do you kind of look for momentum and gather and learn how to drive and drive competitively here on this track? Kind of the questions you got out there. Who's fighting to get that spot as well if you're outside the bubble and going into it also? Big questions, and this is going to be, as this race goes on and guys outside the bubble or need to make some moves, because they'll get told in their ear where they stand and what they need to do. There's some questionable moves that are going to start to be made to try to qualify or stay in the chase this weekend. Friday night racing there, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time is what we're going to see for the O'Reilly Series. Of course, 4:30 for us out here in the west side of the country. Of course, CW gets you the O'Reilly racing here as well. Qualifying, if you want to watch that, will be on Friday during the day as well. 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern, which means noon to 1:30 p.m. on Friday as well. If you want to see how these guys are kind of making it out there, no practice, none of that stuff here at the drafting tracks. They're straight into qualifying, straight into the race on Friday night for the O'Reilly Series. As we told you earlier in the show with the look back segment, William Swalwich and Brent Cruz, they sit just 1 point above the cut line. We actually didn't tell you that earlier because the O'Reilly Series has been off the last 2 weeks. But that's where we stand right now in the O'Reilly Series. Taylor Gray is sitting right on the outside looking in for this. 1 point for 2 drivers here as well, looking at that point. Roger Carruth is also within striking distance. He's 15 points below the cut line as of now as well. You've got a battle here for these last couple spots that you're looking at for the chase. This is the most competitive battle here in terms of the 3 series, right? You saw one driver get in over Stuart Friesen in the Truck Series and Tyler Ankrum. The Cup Series, I think, is set. We'll talk about that here coming up as well. We talked about it earlier. We'll refresh it here coming up. But you got a chance for some changes, folks. In the O'Reilly Series here, you got 2 drivers, William Swalwich and Brent Cruz, in that 11th and 12th spot. 12 drivers get in here. 1 point above the cut line. Taylor Gray's 1 point below it. Looking outside, looking in. Roger Carruth can easily make up that 15 points in this race and get himself into it. Everybody else is pretty much eliminated from racing here this weekend. Well, Sam Mayer, he's not exactly safe. He's 19 points above the cut line, but he's got a lot more breathing room as well. You got 3 Joe Gibbs racing drivers and 1 Junior Motorsports driver. That's Roger Carruth there. Here battling it out and trying to get into this chase. Woo! Doesn't get closer than this, folks, especially with Daytona. We all know Daytona. Unknown racetrack, unexpected things happen here. Drivers that you don't expect to win are there at the end. Drivers you expect to have good weekends and be there, wreck out early in this race. They get caught up into a bunch of stuff and can't continue, or are able to continue, but not be able to be competitive because their car is so damaged out there. All it takes is a driver within that pack to lose control and ruin the day of drivers, and it happens instantly. No warning whatsoever. Survive this race, and you could be the winner of the race. And even then, now, you could be advanced into that 12 driver field here in the O'Reilly Series. Now, Connor Zilic won this race last year, but he's up in the Cup Series. Austin Hill won the February race here in this season, and the season opener. Carson Kvapil has won the last 2 O'Reilly races, right? Iowa, and I forget the one before that. Indy is where he won that one as well. Does that momentum help him at Daytona? I doubt it. I doubt it a lot. So pick a name out of a hat for the winner this weekend. That's simple. Pick a name out of the hat. I'll tell you this. I'm going with Sheldon Creed to win this weekend. I think he'll be there at the end. Maybe some shenanigans happen as guys are trying to get to where they need to be in order to qualify for the chase. And Sheldon Creed can survive all that, and I think he's going to be there in victory lane. Try to be realistic in my picks here. And races like this, it's kind of difficult to do. In terms of drivers who qualify for the chase, here's the question mark. 1 point difference for them. I'll tell you this, Sam Mayer with 19 points up, unless something disastrous happens for him in this race, I think he's going to get into the chase this weekend. Parker Retzlaff hasn't clinched yet. He's going to get in as well, 46 points above the cut line. Disaster has to strike for them not to get in. So the question becomes, you got 4 drivers battling it out for those final 2 spots. William Saulwich, 1 point up. Brent Cruz, 1 point up. Taylor Gray, 1 point down. Outside the bubble. Roger Carruth has some work to do in that 15th spot. I like Brent Cruz as a driver. I want to see him in the chase. He's one of my favorite young drivers on the circuit. I want to see him get the experience in the chase coming up this weekend. I'm going to be holding my breath all weekend that he's going to be able to do enough to pass through here at Daytona and get into it. I also think William Saulwich will do enough to get in as well. Experienced driver in his case, to kind of stay out of trouble and be there at the end to get into this race, get into the chase. Yeah, I think we have our 12 drivers. I do think Taylor Gray. Now, Taylor Gray, I can see a late accident, allowing him to get through it, that maybe wipes out Saulwich or Brent Cruz or something to keep them out of the chase. I think that's kind of what's going to happen coming up this weekend if Taylor Gray is going to advance. I do not think Roger Carruth will be able to get into the chase at all. But regardless of this way it goes, 4 drivers, 2 spots. This is going to be a fantastic race this weekend. And I was wrong with the Truck Series last week. The change happened. I think this week we're going to be kind of set going forward with these guys. It's going to be fun, though. The race winner isn't the story here to tell this weekend. It's going to be that battle for the champ, for who gets into that chase coming up here. It's going to be fantastic, folks. But I do have Sheldon Creed winning the race here and getting some momentum going into the chase. Then we got the Cup Series this weekend at Daytona as well. Saturday night racing there at Daytona, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 out here in the West Coast on NBC, of course, or as they say, USA coming up this weekend. Interesting enough, I love the way these cars shine under the lights of Daytona. It's just fun to watch them sparkle as they go. Again, what weather's going to happen? Does that kind of affect things? Again, no practice or anything in this series here on the drafting track. So you got qualifying on Friday, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time as well, which of course means 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. for us out here on the West Coast. It'll be on True TV like it normally is for qualifying in the Cup Series. Last weekend of the regular season, who's getting into that chase is the question we got. Throw up Cup Ahead 1 for me here. That's the championship points. We talked about it earlier in the show, but just to refresh you here of what we're looking at, 13 drivers have, in fact, clinched their spots. And we got less intrigue here in the Cup Series than we do in the O'Reilly Series. I do think, as I told you earlier, if you caught the beginning part of the show, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, and Shane Van Gisbergen are going to qualify for the chase this weekend. I don't think Ryan Preece, unless one of those guys gets knocked out early in this race and Ryan Preece is able to survive and not necessarily win it, but get a good enough finish and enough points, some stage points, and he's able to make it up, I think it's a long shot here for Ryan Preece to get into it. He's the only one I think that can possibly switch with somebody in front of him there coming up this weekend. Daytona, as you know, brings us unpredictability. We've talked about it a lot today here with this Daytona track. It's a race where big moves can be rewarded. They can also cost you dearly. Not just you, but it could cost teammates, and it could cost other innocent drivers out there. Now, a lot of these drivers will be kind of on fuel mode at the beginning of this race. Where the excitement's going to come is within the third stage here, as guys are battling it out, trying to make their spots to continue on in the chase and make that chase. Ryan Preece, he gets told he has to do certain things. You have to be in front of this guy. You have to make it up. You have to fill up 6 spots to finish in front of here for you to continue. He's going to have to make moves to get there. What does that do in terms of danger and stuff to that effect is the question coming up. Now, who's won here before Daytona? Little history for you. Active race winners. William Byron just won here, as I told you, in February of 2025. I'm going to sneeze here in a second here, folks. I apologize. Yeah, he also won here in 2024 in February. William Byron did. He won here in 2020 for the August race, the summer race then. So 3 races for William Byron. Denny Hamlin has 3 races as well. But he had to go all the way back to 2020 in February. It was the last time he won here. His other 2 races were before that, 2019 and 2016 timeframe. Ryan Blaney just won here last summer, August of 2025. He's won it twice at Daytona. His last time before that was 2021 in August, the summer months. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won here in February of 23 as well. July of 2017 as well for Ricky Stenhouse. Then you got guys like Austin Dillon, won here in August of 2022. He'd won here before in 2018 timeframe as well. We don't really count the races if they were before 2020, though. Tyler Reddick won here just in this February of this year, 2026, right? To begin the season, he won the Daytona 500. He's had a rough middle and end of the season in terms of wins and finishes after that unbelievable start. Can Tyler Reddick win this weekend like he did in the Daytona 500 and parlay that into multiple wins coming up like he did early this season? It's going to be an interesting watch this weekend to see if that can help him out. Chris Buescher won here in August of 2023. Austin Cindric won here in February of 2022. Michael McDowell even has a win here at Daytona, February of 21. He got that win, survived all those wrecks, and got that win from him out there as well. Yes, Joey Logano hasn't won here since February of 2015, his only win. Where's his momentum going to be going into this chase running as well? So then I also look at who's been a runner-up here at Daytona. Because it's not all about winning, because you also, how well have you won to get a runner-up finish here? Yeah, last place runner-up, last week's runner-up, Bubba Wallace, he has 3 runner-up finishes here on this racetrack. Chase Elliott has 2, Ryan Blaney 2, Tyler Reddick 2, Alex Bowman 1, Brad Keselowski 1 as well. Denny Hamlin has 1, Joey Logano has a runner-up finish here as well. So what does that mean in terms of this information? Absolutely nothing. All it takes is for you to get caught up in the middle of this racetrack or toward the front of this racetrack and somebody gets squirrely and crashes out and takes 20 cars with them, and you're involved in it. You want to be a front runner at this racetrack, especially if you have a chance to win this and you're a speed person, battling it out, because then you kind of control everything up there in front. You can take all the information you have and you go into this race at Daytona with no idea who's going to cross the finish line first. Then you add the added pressure of the chase ahead of you here. You have 13 drivers that have clinched. Are they going to push it? Probably not as much, right? But you got the guys outside the bubble kind of pushing it with the 3 guys inside the bubble trying to clinch their spots as well. Chances will be taken for someone trying to get into the chase and stay into the chase. What does that do if somebody miscalculates and messes up that calculation to try to get into it? Final regular season races generally bring more excitement to the racing. You saw that in the Truck Series last week. You're going to see it in the O'Reilly Series this year with those guys 1 point separating them. Oh, and then the Cup Series. They're going to need a little bit more movement here with the bigger buffers out there. Now, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, if they stay out of a wreck, they will be there at the end and threaten for a win. Joey Logano's problem in these types of racetracks, it always seems like something happens to him, either on pit road or something to that effect, and then gets to the back of the racetrack and then just gets caught up in some junk. Always seems to happen to Joey Logano. Can he stay out of it and get up there in the front? Christopher Bell has a good chance to be up in the front of this race as well. His experience will keep him in this race, and they just got to be there to strike at the end if something crazy happens. Austin Hill's won here before. Austin Cindric's won here before. Do these guys have a chance to sneak out a win here? Just be there when something goes down, guys in the front start crashing out, and you're able to sneak through it and get the win. Chase Briscoe is somebody I would look at in this race as well, if I was going to look at it. I don't look at these guys at very many races. This would be a race where I could see these guys sneaking up and winning as well. As I said last week on this program, I'm more convinced of what I said last week, this weekend as well. Yeah, I think we already have the 16 Cup drivers that will be in the chase. I do think so. I do think that there will be little intrigue at the end of this race. Unlike the O'Reilly Series, where that'll be a very focal point. As a matter of fact, the get into the chase in the O'Reilly Series, you're going to be paying more attention to the guys battling it out to get in than you will the actual winner of that race. In the Cup Series, it's not going to be that way. I firmly believe we have the 16 drivers into that. No one will move out. Ryan Preece will not be able to do enough to get into this race coming up, into this side. So I do think we have the 16 drivers coming up here. My winner this weekend, by the way, and he's going to help himself in his standings, I'm going to go with Austin Cindric to win Daytona this weekend. He's hanging right now in that 15th spot, needs just 33 points in order to clinch his spot into the chase. I think Austin Cindric's going to win this weekend and to propel himself into the chase battle coming up. I think SVG is going to do just enough to keep him moving forward as well and get into the chase. And the driver that if Ryan Preece is able to make up the points and get in and knock out, it will be SVG this weekend. And the way Trackhouse is run this year, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, to be honest with you. Hey, folks, it's going to be a fun racing weekend here. I'm looking so much forward to the IndyCar Milwaukee run here, both Saturday and Sunday, because it's just an unbelievable old-school track, and I love that feel. I love that look on those guys. That speed on that flat track. Watching guys pass on turns is just an amazing thing we're going to see this weekend. And then Daytona is going to bring us the uncertainty. I am looking more forward to the O'Reilly Series than the Cup Series this weekend, but that's because I expect a monumental battle here to get into that chase. Come back and join us next week, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, TME Media AZ, or even over on Rumble if you catch us over there. If you catch us on your podcast system, just subscribe to us for us and get us out there into the system. Also, don't forget, follow me at the Pit Stop Talk this weekend. We'll be all over it during the races, having some fun, looking at this racing, and join that conversation, folks. We'll see you next week here on the Pit Stop.